NHL general managers are always trying to find ways to make their team better, whether that's signing a free agent, whether that's making the right choice at the NHL draft, or the most exciting way by making a trade. But when it comes to trading, there is always that risk element to it, especially if there's a young player involved in the trade, because you really just never know how good that young player could turn out to be. And that is kind of what we're going to talk about in today's video. We're going to take a look at 7 instances where teams traded away a young player too early and had it eventually come back to haunt them. And of course, if you guys are new and you want to see more NHL content like this, then make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. And with that being said, let's jump right into it. To begin the video, let's talk about Tyler Seguin and the Boston Bruins. Boston selected Tyler Seguin with the 2nd overall pick in the 2010 NHL draft, and he was good for them, racking up 121 points in 203 games from 2010 to 2013, whilst getting his name engraved on the Stanley Cup in the process. The thing was, Boston wasn't necessarily a fan of Tyler Seguin's lifestyle off the ice, and instead of keeping him around, letting him develop and mature, they decided to trade him to the Dallas Stars along with Rich Peverley and Ryan Button in exchange for Louis Eriksson, Riley Smith, Joe Morrow, and Matt Frazier. And it didn't take long for everybody to realize that the Dallas Stars had a future star in Tyler Seguin, no pun intended, as in his first season with Dallas, he scored 37 goals and had 84 points in 80 games. In total with Dallas, Tyler Seguin has scored 30 or more goals on 5 different occasions, including a 40-goal season in 2017-18 to go along with 5 All-Star appearances. It's definitely safe to say things worked out pretty well for the Dallas Stars in this trade. And when it comes to Boston, Riley Smith and Louis Eriksson did give them a couple of good seasons, but looking back at it now, they have nothing to show for it, as Riley Smith is with the Golden Knights, Louis Eriksson is with the Vancouver Canucks, Joe Morrow is now with the Winnipeg Jets, and Matt Frazier is playing in Germany. Sure, the Bruins did fine without Tyler Seguin, but could you imagine if they had him this whole time? A center core of Bergeron, Seguin, and Krejci for all these years would have been pretty insane. Nonetheless, I think everybody can agree that Boston probably gave up on him a little bit too early. The 1995-96 Pittsburgh Penguins, an absolutely stacked team with Mario Lemieux, Jaromir Jagr, Ron Francis, Peter Nedved, and they actually had a young Markus Nslund on that team, who they had drafted with the 16th overall pick in the 1991 NHL draft. As a 21-year-old, Markus Nslund put up 52 points in 66 games before the 1996 trade deadline, where he was eventually dealt to the Vancouver Canucks in a 1-for-1 swap for Alex Stoyanov. Stoyanov was actually a first-round pick 7th overall in the same draft the Penguins selected Nslund. You may have never heard of him, and that would make sense considering he only played 107 career games in the NHL and only 45 for Pittsburgh. Markus Nslund, on the other hand, well, he went on to become one of the greatest players in the franchise history of the Vancouver Canucks and retired with 869 career points in 1,117 total games played. I would truly love to know how the Vancouver Canucks convinced the Pittsburgh Penguins to make this trade. Stoyanov only had 1 assist in 58 games leading up to the deadline. This is easily one of the most lopsided trades in NHL history, and honestly, it's crazy to think about how different things could have been had the Penguins have just held on to Markus Nslund. The Quebec Nordiques selected Mats Sundin with the 1st overall pick in the 1989 NHL draft, making him the first European-born player to ever be selected with the 1st overall pick. And it didn't take long for Mats Sundin to develop into a superstar. At the age of 21, in his 3rd season in the league, he put up 114 points for the Quebec Nordiques, and followed that up by putting up 85 points in 84 games in the 93-94 season. But the Quebec Nordiques already had their franchise centerman in Joe Sakic, so I guess that made trading Mats Sundin a little bit easier. Sundin was eventually dealt to the Leafs in a blockbuster trade, and the big piece going back to Quebec was Leafs captain Wendell Clark, who was a very good player in his prime, but only ended up playing 37 games with the Quebec Nordiques, and when the team moved to Colorado, he got into a contract dispute and was eventually moved to the New York Islanders. Funny enough, Wendell Clark was actually dealt back to the Toronto Maple Leafs in the 95-96 season, and Mats Sundin, we all know how that turned out. He is one of the greatest players to ever play for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and one of the greatest NHL players of all time. 1,349 points in 1,346 games, a Hockey Hall of Famer. He's a member of the NHL's list of 100 greatest players of all time, and yet the Nordiques traded him at the age of just 23. Had they not done that, we'd be remembering Mats Sundin in an Avalanche jersey instead of a Maple Leafs one. This one shouldn't take long. Remember the Montreal Canadiens drafted Ryan Mcdonagh with the 12th overall pick in the 2007 NHL draft, and before he even played a game with the team, they dealt him to the New York Rangers. Now it kinda made sense. Montreal was desperately looking for a top centerman, and they were hoping Scott Gomez could be that, considering he was coming off of a 58-point season with the New York Rangers. And things started off pretty good. Scott Gomez came into Montreal and put up 59 points in 78 games his first season with the team. Unfortunately, after that, things went downhill, and they went downhill fast. And after just 3 seasons in Montreal, Gomez would sign with the San Jose Sharks in the summer of 2012. And of course, what made everything worse is the fact that Ryan McDonagh turned out to be a fantastic defenseman, and pretty much has been ever since he became a full-time NHLer with the Rangers back in 2011. But hey, that's the risk you take when you trade prospects, especially prospects that haven't even played a game for your team. Cedeno Chara was a New York Islander once upon a time. Looks weird, right? They selected him with the 56th overall pick in the 1996 NHL draft, and he played with the Islanders from 1997 up until 2001. Chara was developing at a pretty slow rate for the Islanders, so on June 23rd of 2001, they traded him to the Senators along with Bill Muckalt, a 2001 first-round pick, in exchange for Alexei Yashin. That first-round pick turned out to be pretty valuable as well. Ottawa used it to select Jason Spezza with the 2nd overall pick in the 2001 NHL draft, and he went on to have a pretty good career in Ottawa. And even though Alexei Yashin did have a couple of good seasons with the Islanders, including 75 points in the 01-02 season, they would have been better suited holding on to Chara and letting him develop, and also holding on to that draft pick, which ended up being 2nd overall. In my opinion, Chara has had a Hall of Fame caliber career. 656 points in 1,553 career games, a Norris Trophy in 08-09, a Stanley Cup in 2011, and the man is still going strong at 43 years old, and honestly looks like he could probably go for a couple more seasons. A lot of people remember Miroslav Shaton for the way his last name is spelled, but he was actually a very good hockey player as well. The Oilers took him in the 5th round of the 1993 NHL draft, and he played 2 seasons with them from 1995 to 1997, scoring 15 plus goals both years. But on March 18th of 1997, Miroslav Shaton was dealt to the Buffalo Sabres in exchange for Craig Miller and Barry Moore. You probably aren't familiar with either of those names, and that's because neither of them ever really became full-time NHLers. While Miroslav Shaton, on the other hand, became quite the prolific goal scorer, scoring 20 or more goals 9 times throughout his NHL career, including a 40-goal season in the 98-99 year with the Buffalo Sabres. In total, Shaton racked up 363 career goals, 735 points in 1,050 games played. Overall, just a very solid career, and considering the Edmonton Oilers traded him when he was just 21 years old, it's safe to say they gave up on him a little bit too soon. From 2010 to 2012, the Flyers had a goaltending tandem of Ilya Bryzgalov and Sergei Bobrovsky, both at the time capable of being a starter. It's just Philadelphia made the wrong choice on who they wanted to keep. Instead of sticking with the 22-year-old goaltender who showed a lot of promise, they decided to trade him to the Columbus Blue Jackets for a 2nd and a 4th in 2012 and a 4th round pick in the 2013 draft. Looking back on this, it is one of the most lopsided trades in recent memory, hands down, and it really didn't take too long for people to realize that. The Flyers ended up buying out the remainder of Bryzgalov's contract on June 25th of 2013, and Sergei Bobrovsky won a Vezina Trophy his very first season with the Columbus Blue Jackets. And of course, went on to be one of the better goalies of the decade, also winning a Vezina Trophy in the 2016-17 season. And ever since trading away Bobrovsky, the Flyers' goaltending situation has kinda been a mess. Luckily, it seems like they have finally found their guy in Carter Hart, and hopefully he was worth the wait because it took a long time. Sometimes I find myself forgetting that Bobrovsky ever even played for the Philadelphia Philadelphia Flyers. If only they would have kept him over Ilya Bryzgalov, then their goaltending situation wouldn't have been such a mess for so many years. That is going to do it for today's video. I really hope you guys did enjoy. There were many other examples, but I narrowed it down to the 7 that I wanted to talk about in today's video. I had a lot of fun putting this one together, so if you did enjoy, make sure to go down there and smash the like button. That's the best way to show your support. And of course, if you guys are new to the channel and you want to see more NHL content like this, then make sure to hit that subscribe button. And with all that being said, I will see you all in the next video.